like habits stem from even before you get to that, it's what is the situation that you are putting yourself in. So identify what your habits are and call them out, right? Hello everybody and welcome back to this week's episode of It Takes Grit with your host Rebecca Louise. First of all, I want to say a massive thank you to everybody who reached out and said how much last week's episode about boundaries really helped them, and just thank you, because I know it was very vulnerable, it was very open, and I really just kind of put my heart on the line. So I want to say thank you so much for giving me that space, and then also just make me feel okay about doing it. So, it's never easy when you really talk about how you feel and everybody's going to listen to it and you feel like you're this coach, so you need to act a certain way and everything has to be perfect. But the truth is that we all have stuff going on, and on Instagram and on social media, everything might just look beautiful and smiles and rainbows and all of this stuff. But at the core, everybody is going through something, and it's just the universe giving us a challenge. I can't even believe the things that, I'm going through and experiencing right now. If this had happened to me, even just a year ago, and there will be a point where I talk about it, but even just a year ago, like I wouldn't be able to function right now. Like I'm almost glad what's happened has happened, because it's just like, I'm just like so proud of myself. I'm like, wow, like, who is this individual? I'm so mature and aware and wise, right? But that's what the universe gives us these tests, is so that we can come onto a place where we're feeling more in control of our emotions and just understanding other people and understanding our own thoughts, and just being that vehicle. So really grateful for everybody who's allowing me that space to just, breathe and speak, and just know that, whatever you're going through right now, like, you're not messed up, you're not crazy, you are loved, you are enough, and we all go through areas of our life where we want to beat ourselves up and we don't feel good about ourselves. And, that's just a normal, natural instinct and behavior. So that's what I want to kind of talk about, just about in regards to last week's episode. So thank you everybody for all of your lovely feedback and support on that. So we're going to talk about today. Let's just lighten the mood up just a little bit, right? Shake your body out, shake your body out. Come on, like, move your body. It's all about that physiological change in that state, right? When we're kind of feeling sad, when we're feeling depressed, right? It's okay to feel it. Like, I want you guys to feel the feels, but not stay in that victim mentality for too long. Like, feel it, scream it out. Every single time that you talk about it, it takes 1 ounce or 1 pound off all of that ton of weight that's on your shoulders. So talk about it, but also remember, like, life goes on and we get to kind of push forward. So we're going to talk about how to break bad habits and transform your life. A pretty epic title, right? And, we're not going to be able to cover everything in the next 20 minutes, 15 minutes, however long that we go through this. But breaking habits, it takes time, it takes work, and it takes acknowledging it. We might be in a place right now where we don't know why we're not getting the results that we want, and we're not even relating it to a pattern or a behavior that we have, right? How do we break that habit, like a bad habit that we have, whether it's, seeking attention from other people, whether it's, going and doing something extreme like drugs, or whether, you are just not able to get your work in every day, or maybe you keep going to the cookie jar at night, right? We always have these bad habits, and I don't like using the word bad so much, right? But there is bad and there are good habits, right? Getting up early and making your bed, that's a great habit. Like getting up in the morning and not feeding your body good breakfast and, not feeling excited, that's kind of a bad habit. So we do want to break those bad habits, but let's go back like a little bit further, because you might not even identify why you have, or if you even have a bad habit. So often, and what I've experienced is, if we don't know why we're not getting somewhere, we just think it's because we don't have something yet. We don't have the skill. But I think it's a little bit deeper than that. I think it's because we've created a bad habit, because that's just our pattern. Like, that's just kind of what we've learned. So we want to identify your bad habits, first of all. We're going to go down to how to identify them, and then we're going to go through to how to break them. Now, this does not happen overnight. And by the way, for me, I've done a lot of drugs. Like, my drug of choice was Coke. I did a lot of Coke. I did a lot of drugs. And if I've had too many drinks, if I'm at a party, there's good energy, and someone put a line of Coke in front of my face, I cannot tell you honestly that I wouldn't do it, right? Because I just know, like, I know my patterns, I know my behaviors, I know how that makes me feel for the instance, tell me feel like absolute fucking shit the next day, right? But that doesn't come into my head. What comes into my head is that moment in that time, what does that hit feel like? It feels like a hit. So what I choose to do is not put myself in those situations. And I think that that's really important when you're identifying your bad habit. Like, when do you do something that you don't love about yourself? Like, because at the end of the day, when we break those habits, it makes us feel better. When we keep repeating life over and over again, we never feel good about ourselves, right? And it's often because we don't feel love. I used to do Coke because I felt connected, or I felt disconnected from the world. Like, it was kind of a mix. I was like, sometimes I wanted to feel really connected, and sometimes I was like, I just wanted to block out stuff. So I stopped. I would do Coke to like block out things that had happened, or I was using it for connection. So I've identified that if I put myself into a situation, I could fail, right? And so the best thing is not even put your situation. It's like, if you go to a certain restaurant and it's full of fast food and there's like one healthy thing on the option, what are you most likely going to choose? You're going to choose the unhealthy thing. But if you don't even put yourself in that situation, if you always choose the healthy restaurants, what are you likely going to choose? You're going to choose the healthy option, right? If you are, in a group of friends that loves to work out and they do a workout every single day at like 6 a.m., what are you more likely to do? You're putting yourself into a situation. So I really believe that like habits stem from even before you get to that, it's what is the situation that you are putting yourself in. So identify what your habits are and call them out, right? And so you might not even realize that something that is a habit is stopping you getting from where you want to be. And that's so often, right? I had a habit of, doing Coke, and I would do it for days. Like, no one even knew. Like, no one would even know I'd be doing Coke, and I wouldn't be like doing grams and grams at a time. It'd just be little bumps here and there. And it was for me to feel connected or for me to feel disconnected. So I had to identify that was a really bad habit. Like, it's not a good state to live in. Like, trust me, like, even alcohol, I'll have 1 or 2 glasses of Prosecco, and after that, like, I don't feel like myself, right? I then start to feel disconnected. And sometimes I was drinking alcohol to feel connected. God, I'm being really real and open and vulnerable. Here we go. All right. We are just letting it all out, Rebecca. So identify what those habits are and call them out. Find out how those bad habits started. Like, it always starts from a story, right? We all have shit, by the way. And it's not to say that somebody's got worse stuff that's happened to them. It's just your shit. Like, that's okay. Like, own your shit. So what happened that made you feel that you needed to do X, Y, and Z? For me, something happened to me in my teens. I had like a whole string of like shitty like experiences, let's just put it that way, right? Life experiences that made me, when I did Coke for the first time at 19 years old, that blocked that out. It blocked out those like negative experiences that I had. And so that's why they started. So you gotta really come back to like the story of why did something start, and then recognize the need for development, right? Of willpower to control the pattern of behavior. When you become aware that you have a pattern, and there's a great quote that says that patterns don't lie, people do. And that is so, so true, right? So if you've got a pattern going on right now and you are maybe lying about it, that's just not you identifying that it's a problem. And that's just not you identifying that you break a habit. But the great news is that you are listening to this podcast and you are wanting to do the work. Like, you're working on yourself, right? That's a big, big part of it. So what I want you to focus on is like, just recognize the need for development of willpower to control that pattern of behavior and to willing to do the work, right? So often we can say, okay, well, I've done it multiple times. I just don't want to do Coke anymore. I don't want to do Coke anymore. I'm never going to do it again. And then what happened? Coke was right in front of me and I'd had a couple of drinks and I'm feeling good. I'm going to do it. That isn't like, you can't just say, oh, I'm never going to do this again, right? It has to be, I got to work on it. Why am I doing it? Identify why you're doing it. And why you're putting yourself in those situations to fail. And then how can you use that willpower and actually really wanting to change? So how do we break them? It's like, oh my goodness. Like, I don't know if kind of recap some of that, but we get to think about how we break them. Don't try and break it right away. It's not going to happen overnight. And if you're like, right, I'm never going to do it again. I've listened to this podcast. I'm never going to eat anything unhealthy. I'm going to work out every single day. You are going to set yourself up for what? Failure. You're going to set yourself up to fail. And that's not what we want to do. We want to set yourself up for success so that you can have results long term. And by the way, if you mess up, if you F up, it's okay. Don't beat yourself up. You got to feel that though. You got to feel the guilt. You got to feel a little bit of it to make sure that you really do want to change and that you are going to make a difference in the future. So don't try and break it straight away. And make many small changes, right? Every step counts. Number 2 is that making any small changes. So first of all, just spending time. Where did this story come from? When did I first start to have this habit? Why have I got this habit? Like, what does this mean to me? Am I attached to my habit? Does it give me significance? Does it make me feel like a victim that then gives me significance? Like, what is this story right here? Because by the way, you can get significance from loads of other things. And really at the true core, it's not about significance. It's about love and connection. That's what's going to make your heart feel full. So trying to make like big changes straight away, it's like just baby steps, like just moving through step by step. And then replace your bad habits by making a plan, right? By making a plan. Now, do you need to go and, speak to a life coach, a therapist, go to events like once a week? Like, what are you doing to break the habits? Because we can all say, right, I'm just never going to do it again. But we actually have to apply the work. For me, I went to multiple different therapists. I went to loads of different events. I went to a Date with Destiny, Tony Robbins in 2019, and I dropped a story that I've been holding on to for such a long time, and that I really believe was a pivotal moment in my life. However, it took me a full year to actually do the work to stop. Isn't that crazy? It was almost the year. It was like 10 months. So I went to an event. I had an epiphany. I was like, yes, my life is going to change. And it didn't exactly change. It wasn't like solid change, right? I still kind of went back to the past. I kept reverting back. And then it came to a point where I'd done enough work and I'd focused enough on myself that I never did Coke ever again. All right. So change your environment. Oh my goodness. Like if you put yourself into a situation where you're tempted by something, whether it's wrong, whether it's right, and it's messed up, sometimes you're like, why do I want this? Like this feels like weird, right? But we get attracted to things that sometimes have like a little bit of a naughtiness about them. Maybe it's something that we shouldn't be doing, but that makes us feel good. So change your environment. Every single time that you put yourself into a situation where you can fuck up, you're going to fuck up, right? 9 times out of 10, you're just going to do that. So if you can stop your body going into that situation, you're going to have a much better success rate, right? And plan for slip-ups and avoid feeling defeated when it happens, because it can happen, right? As long as you don't put yourself in a situation to fail, then you're more likely never to do it again, right? It's the situation, it's the environment. That's how you're going to really break the habit, because if you just don't get into that environment, you are setting yourself up for success. And it's never to say that you don't slip up, because, maybe you've changed your circle of influence, like you've changed like who you go to the gym with, you've changed your food in the house, you don't bring like bad processed foods in the house anymore. But if you put yourself in an environment where you are going to you're going to do that bad habit again, you are setting yourself up for failure. So plan for the slip-ups. If you're going to think ahead, go, okay, if I did X, Y, and Z, if I went here, if I went to this party, I could potentially do Coke. So what am I going to do? I'm going to make the decision before. That doesn't align. I can't go to that party. Like maybe that's just something that I have to live with forever. I can't go to that party because I know that there's going to be drugs there and I don't trust myself. So why would I put myself in a position to fail? Right? That's the big secret here. This is the big key part. And you might not even realize that some of these bad habits that you have right now are literally ruining your life, because they're not helping you get to where you want to be. They're not giving you what you really want in life. And if you break these bad habits, what's going to happen? You're going to have a breakthrough, and it's going to completely change your life. Like it's going to completely change your life. So when we're thinking about these breakthrough moments, just come back to a place of like, okay, who do I want to be? Who's the person I want to be? Like, I didn't want to be someone who was like doing drugs. I didn't want to have somebody who was blaming my past and, things that happened to me when I was a kid. Like, I didn't want that to be the reason that, I was the way that I was, right? We always come from that place. Well, the reason I do X, Y, and Z is because this happened to me, right? The reason that I act like this is because this happened to me. Totally normal, by the way. Don't give yourself like anger or just feel that. Like, yes, but that's a pattern. It's a pattern that you have that you can break. when you identify it. And it doesn't matter if you're 20, 25, 35, 40, 50, 60. It doesn't matter if you're 70 years old and this is finally, an epiphany that you're like, oh my goodness, I've been having these patterns because of this, but this doesn't have to be the excuse of why I act like this. All right. So just to recap here, identify those bad habits, write them down, journal them down, figure out where they started, figure out why you don't want them anymore. That's an important thing. Like, why don't you want to do them? It doesn't agree with my values. It doesn't agree with who I am, right? I feel like I have grown like exponentially the last 5 days. I think I'm like so aware, and I'm so like, I don't know what's been going on. Well, I do know what's been going on, but like, it's just, like my brain has just become like this created some more like capacity, right? Because I've looked at things from other ways, and I've looked at those habits and wanting to make shifts. So you can make these habits good habits. You can change your bad habits into good habits, right? Because we all have a lesson that we get to learn on this planet. Like, this planet is here just to challenge us. The universe is here to just give us tests and to help us grow. So don't beat yourself up. Like, we've all been in a place where we're like, oh my goodness, I hate myself for doing this. And I was there. Like, I used to like hate myself, like just beat myself up, like hit myself, because I felt so bad about these habits that I was doing that was just literally crushing my life and crushing my dreams. So don't beat yourself up, but know that you can change these habits. Now, you might not have a habit like, Rebecca, I don't have to do any drugs. I just got a habit where I just keep eating chocolate at night. No problem. You can actually still apply the same principles. It's still that desire that you want. So change the environment. Don't bring it into your household. Replace it with something else. Identify why that you want chocolate in the evening. Identify why that you binge eat. Identify why that you have, so much, you exercise 3 hours a day. Like, identify why you don't exercise at all, right? Really start to unlock that. I know this is a very deep conversation, but I know that you guys are up for it because you want to do the work. So if this podcast has helped you at all, please share it with somebody. There's somebody out there right now that just needs a little bit of help from you, that just needs a little bit of love, and just learning about the patterns and breaking habits could really change their life. So you could be that hero in someone's life today. Well, thank you so much for watching or listening wherever you are on all the platforms. Make sure you give us a review if you have loved this episode. I'm excited to share more with you as I am morphing and growing in my own self as well. So thank you so much for all of your love and support. And I will see you on next week's episode. Bye, everyone.